Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Hello, hello, and welcome. Let's see. Is this going to work here? Yeah, there we go. Um, audio. Yeah, audio. Yeah. Golly, go for. I mean, I had to put the earbuds on because I saw you guys complimenting me on my lack of audio. And yeah, it is unrevealed. It is actually weird. We've got a few minutes. I want to test something. So I'm going to count down from 3 to 0. And when I get to 0, I'm going to turn something off that should be totally unrelated. And then I'm going to continue to talk. And I want you to tell me if you can hear me. Okay? You ready? 3, 2, 1. Now can you hear me? Was there any difference? Would you like me to do it again? Okay. So we've got audio here. No audio, says TK DS Sports. My mic is a bit hot and clipping. Is that right? Wow. That's amazing. Because, let's see, is that any better? Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Whatever you do, it cuts audio. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, then maybe my hidden gem wasn't as good as I thought. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Daniel's here. Jan's here. Rudy's here. Guido's here. Tommy's here. Holy cow. Let's see. Let me find my other list and see who else is here. And Otis and Kyle. Welcome, 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 welcome. And TKDS Sports. Well, there you go. Doggone it. There goes the whole show right there. Hey, John, welcome. You know, somebody famous once said, test, test, test. Who was that? I thought it was me, but I saw it on a recent vMix tutorial that Tim said, now remember, test, test, test. I was like, wait, I said that. Oh my gosh. I hope some of you will be able to meet, will be able to come to NAB. I'm planning on being there. I'm going to be there all week. And John Mahoney, who is the Streaming Alchemy Show, among other names that he goes by, John and some others have agreed to join us for breakfast one morning in the South Hall dining room for just a chat. And John does the Streaming Alchemy Show on Fridays and also is the proprietor of a company called NeuralNet, which makes a really cool standalone, essentially a vMix call PC system, but with the green room and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really, really pretty neat. So hoping that I will get to meet some of you there. If for the first time, that would be cool. If not for the first time, that's okay too. If you forget to prepare, you're preparing to be forgotten. Ooh. Or in my case, you just fade into infamy. Okay, let's do without these. Those aren't doing any good. Now that we know what's going on, this is amazing. Amazing. All right. Marie says she's the unicorn. How do you think she gets all that glitter? Ah, well, okay. She flings glitter confetti in the chat. Oh my gosh. Too much fun. Too much fun. All right. Let's see. Let's check a couple of things here. Shout out to PTZ Optics. They're providing the camera for today's show. It is a PT20X Gen 2 that has been field upgraded to NDI. And I think we're taking the NDI feed. Let me see. Cameras. If I do that, yes, we're taking the NDI feed. All right. Jan says of it works. Make sure you're not mistaken by testing. If it still works, figure out how and why by testing. Verify your findings by testing. There's a theme to that, I think. But I might fail the test. Yeah, so yeah, today is going to be not the show we thought it was going to be. Doggone it. Oh, well, it's a good thing we found that out now. In case you don't know, my husband spoils me. Yeah, apparently he gives you glitter. I mean, what is he thinking? So yes, NAB, we're going to have a series of breakfasts every morning at NAB. No charge, just, come by breakfast and sit down. We'll get times and locations to you a little later. And I thought it would just be a great idea to meet some of the folks that and let them speak. Just a little short kind of, monologue, soliloquy, whatever you want to call it, introduction, and then with some Q&A. And so a great place to meet some people in the industry. And I'll come up with some other guests as we get closer to the point. Jan says, Tom, you're just at the initial step, the pre-test. Well, I'm in the pre-show. And the pre-show, everything is exploded. So there we go. Oh, all right. So Otis is asking, Kyle, are you going to NAB 2021 in October in Las Vegas? And Otis, I hope you are. Kyle, I hope you are. I think it's going to be an interesting show. I mean, there's an awful lot that's happened in the live streaming world. I mean, imagine, holy cow, the products that have come out and the new uses of old products and all those crazy things that have changed in the last 18 months. By then, it will be 18 months. Will it be 18 months? Let's see. Hold on. No. Well, next month would have been, next month is the second NAB that has been canceled. And so it's been 1 year, it'll be 2.5 years since the last NAB. So we've got a lot of backlog of stuff to see in person, stuff you've heard about, stuff maybe you're even using, but now you can go talk to the manufacturer and kind of get some more details on best practices, that kind of thing. Last I heard, vMix will not be present, but they have already paid for a booth, so they're going to try to do something. It may just be a kind of a kiosk kind of thing, where you walk up. I don't know. Maybe they'll get some kangaroos and put them in a pen. I just don't know. Although I don't think you're allowed live animals in NAB. And the same thing with the bird dog guys. They at last we heard they are not allowed to leave the country, or if they do, maybe they're not allowed to go back or something like that. Guido says, no need to go to NAB. New stuff will be shipping in 2025. Maybe. All right, well, let's get this show off the skids here and see what we can do with it. Let me check one more thing before we go. And we'll do that. And how are we doing on glare? Is this yeah, that's the glare right there. Let's see if we can reduce that. Is that better? Nope. It's a little better. We'll get there. All right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of too. Of just doing some interactive like that. Of course, it's the middle of the night for them in Australia. Okay, here we go. Where's the magic button? Here it is. Well, hello and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots. We are so glad you are here. And boy, am I earning that moniker today. Do I feel like an idiot? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I had this great show planned. I had it planned, but not tested. And I said, I'm going to do all these great things. And it's all going to hinge on this one thing that I haven't tested. Well, as it turns out, in the pre-show, the thing I hadn't tested, well, let me start at the beginning, because there's no sense in me starting in the middle and then having to tell you the beginning just to get to the end. The show today was supposed to be about hidden gems in vMix. And there was a hidden gem that was added back in, I don't know, maybe version 22. And you don't ever hear about people using it. And so I thought, well, let's bring this out and let's talk about it and show, and we'll have a big old time with it. And it is, some of you are going to laugh at me as soon as you hear it, but it's the ability to run multiple instances of vMix at the same time on the same PC. And that is, it's kind of hidden. Well, it's definitely hidden. And let's see, I think I can show you where it is. Let's see, let's go to this tab. And yeah, we'll bring up this shot. So pay no attention to the fact that it goes out to infinity. And let's get the lower third off there. But if you go into settings, and I'm just going to drag this up there so it doesn't distract you. You've got a button or a tick box down here called Show Advanced Settings. Show Advanced Settings. And before we do that, let's just sharpen up that picture for you just a little bit. Sharpen. There we go. Okay, so back to settings. So we've got Show Advanced Settings down here. When we click that, we have to agree. And then new settings show up. Well, if we unclick it, it may still be there. So let's go to options. And then I'm going to turn that on again. And there's another option that appears down here that calls Enable Multiple Instances. And I've got it checked so I can allow multiple instances of vMix. Okay, so we got that. That's good. So we'll say, okay, we don't have to restart, and we'll just go back to my main shot. So I did that. I said, okay, let's do that. That'll be cool. And so I created a second instance of vMix, and let me sharpen that image too. I forget to sharpen that stuff. I wish I could turn that on as an option. So here is the second image. And of course, it goes out to infinity. Can I put, yeah, I don't think I can. Well, I can put that in preview. That might help. Yeah, that doesn't really help. Anyway, that's the second instance of vMix. And whatever my output in vMix would be whatever the input, the single input in this one. And you see it carries audio with it. And the audio is turned on. Yes, it's turned on. And what we found out in the pre-show was that when I turned it off because I said, I don't want to get double audio by accident. And the reason I used that, let me put it back up there again. And it'll quickly go back to, infinity. But the reason I used it is because I was going to experiment with doing multiple streams simultaneously from two different instances of vMix. One would be an instance that, oh, look, that one's recording. Interesting. I don't want to stop the recording, but it looks like I'm recording it on two instances of vMix at the same time. All right, so that's my remote instance, and this is my local instance. As you can see, it's also recording down here. So needless to say, this untested hidden gems feature portion is a complete and total bust. Because number one, my second instance of vMix, when I turned off the audio in it turned off the audio in the primary instance, although the audio was still on in the primary instance. And I could see the bar moving up and down in the transition bar in vMix. We'll go back to that shot. Let's see, which one is it? Right there. And so this bar right here was bouncing up and down. I was getting audio in all the channels down here. And yet you guys were saying, Tom, you have no audio. Well, that's when I started thinking, okay, what have I changed? So we're going to change this to a troubleshooting session. What changes have I made? Have I updated Windows? No, I haven't updated Windows in a couple of days, so it wasn't that. I'm running a second instance of vMix. Could it be that? And then I remembered in that second instance of vMix, I had turned off the master audio there so that it wouldn't accidentally bleed through into the regular program. But when I did that, I turned off the audio to the YouTube stream, even though the master audio indicator in my primary, I will call it my primary vMix and my secondary vMix. In my primary vMix, everything looked fine. In my secondary vMix, I had turned it off. And we did that in the pre-show, and I'll do it again for you now. So I'm just gonna turn off the master audio in the secondary vMix. I'm just gonna hit the audio button in that. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'll turn it back on. So if you were like me, or if you were like the folks in the pre-show, there was no audio right then, even though I had every indication on my vMix desktop of my primary vMix instance that it was working perfectly. There was no indication. The master audio was on. The audio volume meter next to the transition bar was bouncing up and down, but YouTube had no audio. Now here's the curious thing. Facebook did. Facebook never lost audio. We're streaming to the Streaming Idiots Facebook group, and we're streaming to the Eastern Shore Broadcasting YouTube page or YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel lost audio, but the Facebook group did not. So, needless to say, that's not something that I'm ever going to do again or that I'm going to recommend again. But it is an example, and I think even though multiple instances is an option in vMix, it is well, let me open that page again, and I'll show you guys. Let's see, this is the one we want right there. So we're going to go to Settings. We are going to go to Options. And we've got advanced options checked, so let's uncheck it, and then we'll check it back again. And this says, advanced settings should not be changed unless instructed to by vMix support. Do you wish to continue? So they have obviously made this enabled multiple instances at least behind a barrier. Now, it's a barrier you can cross, but when you cross this barrier, you have to be aware that you're crossing the barrier. So vMix has put it behind this agreement that says don't do it unless vMix technical support has asked you to do it. And I recall, although I don't recall when I recall it from, but I recall Martin Sinclair, the developer of vMix, when asked about this by me, he said, yeah, it'll work, but we don't support it because it just doesn't do what you expect it to do. So it's an unsupported feature. You can't really call it a bug because it wasn't supposed, vMix made no pretension that it would work to begin with. But my guess is that there probably are some ways that you can use it. For example, today, my intent was that I would be live streaming to, that I would be live streaming to Facebook and YouTube and perhaps a third destination. And I wanted to show an example of how you could pick up a fourth destination by using a second instance of vMix, and by, and I'll bring in that capture, even though it just goes off to infinity. This is the second instance of vMix, and so we could actually come in here and go into stream settings and set up a stream, and let's just do it. Let's do it. We've got an audio issue, but we can see if maybe we can set up a Facebook stream. It'll be Streaming Idiots today, and we'll just call this a test. Why not? And we'll call this a test. And we're not going to schedule it, and we'll create the stream. And so you can go over to the Eastern Shore Broadcasting page in Facebook. We'll go ahead and start it and see if it works. Okay, looks like it's streaming something. It's streaming junk right now. So let's switch back over to this shot. So if you go to Facebook, to Eastern Shore Broadcasting, to the page, you will see perhaps a live stream. Now, there is a live stream that I did earlier, a little short one, basically just advertising this show. But do you see, can anybody report that they've gone to Facebook, to the Eastern Shore Broadcasting page? And by the way, while you're there, you can like the page. And video is getting choppy. Aha. Okay. All right. Well, let's stop that. So we've stopped that third stream in a second instance of vMix. Now, that third stream was not using a hardware encoder. And yeah, and I had I had the quality set to 1080p 6 megabits per second. And Michael says that YouTube is a double image, creepy, choppy twitchiness. Oh, this is cool. I got to see this. All right, hold on. Hold on. Let's see. There. It looks like normal. It doesn't look anything bad. Of course, I'm probably looking at it after the fact. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Let's just see if we're missing any frames right here. It looks fine for me. So y'all can tell me now if it looks better now that we're kind of at that point. All good now. Okay, so let's go back to our second instance of vMix. And I'm going to adjust the... and let's see, I'll show you what I'm doing instead of making you wait. So this is the second instance of vMix. We'll go back into stream settings. And we'll set up another Facebook. Oh, nope, almost did it again. See my settings right there, H.264, 1080p. No, let's just X out of that. So let's set it down low so that we're not, how about 720 1.5? There we go. We can probably slip that one in without messing up everything else. So we're going to go stream. This will be test 2, create the stream. So did anybody get over to Facebook and see if there was actually a stream there? All right, come on. Get this stream ready. Oh, it is ready. Okay, so we'll close it and we'll start it. All right, so now we're starting that one. let's go back over here to the main shot, and you can tell me whether it looks like we've gone. Test stream was there, says Kyle. Thank you very much. Okay, we put up a third test stream. It says test 2, but I guess it's a second test. It's the second test stream, but it's the third stream today. So that's a choppy again. Okay, all right, very good. And let's take a second, and we'll do this too, and see if the Facebook page is there. Eastern Shore Broadcasting. And I don't see it. Let me refresh that page. There we go. Test 2. There it is. And it's playing. And it's not playing well. Oh, yeah. It looks like a bad movie. Okay. Well, that answers that question. Let's stop that stream. And back to normal. John, I am running this on an i7 8700K machine. So it's a, in its day, it was the latest, greatest stuff. Today, I would say it's kind of a mid-level machine, but that's okay. So now the second stream, the third stream, the test stream from a second instance of vMix is kaput, not there anymore. And I can show you that by going back to this one right here. There we go. And there is no stream going on down here. Isn't that interesting? On my screen, my cursor is giant because I want it to be, but on your screen, it looks the same way. Go figure. Okay. So, huge failure. But not a huge failure, right? Anytime we test something and we have a fail, we know this is a way that won't work. And it also tells us other things. For example, I was counting on this, and Giannis got something there too. I was counting on this second instance of vMix to allow me to do all sorts of other things that I didn't have capability for on the first instance. For example, a fourth or a fifth or a sixth stream from one PC from inside vMix. Now, I've heard of folks that have coupled vMix with Wirecast or with OBS and have done an extra set of streams out of that. I've never tried it. I've only used Wirecast. I used Wirecast for a while, maybe about 3 or 4 months back in the VidBlaster Guy days. And I don't think I've ever even seen OBS live. I think I've seen pictures of it, but I have to see it live. Ferguson, USA Hot Talk Roadie, say something in Chinese. I can't wait for the dubbing. Well, we're experimenting with different things today. It was sort of my max headroom kind of thing if you go back that far. So the second instance of vMix is not the hidden gem that I had hoped it would be. When I think about, okay, what else could you do with it? You could use it for an extra set of outputs. In vMix, you're limited to 2 external renderers. You're limited to 4 kind of internal outputs. That doesn't really make sense unless you know vMix well, at least on the Pro and 4K versions. So this might give you a whole different set of outputs. You can take a NDI input from one machine, or take an input from one machine, make it available as NDI so it can become an input on a second machine, and then on that second machine it can become an output. So, I'm thinking if you wanted to output to multiple screens or multiple, SDI cards, just trying to think of different ways that it would make vMix bigger. one of the ways vMix has made itself bigger just recently is to increase the instant replay from 4 cameras to 8 cameras. And part of that is the increased ability today for CPU power that allowed Martin to do that. Other days, prior to these days, there wasn't enough CPU power out there in one PC to be able to handle all that. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if Martin can do it with doubling the number of cameras in vMix in instant replay, then maybe a second instance of vMix would allow us to do the same kinds of things. It also might allow us to do a third or a fourth recording of other things. It could be used for people that don't have the vMix 4K or the vMix Pro, but wanted to do individual recordings of individual cameras. You could bring those in there. But what I found out, and I'll let you see this guy again, we'll go back to him here, is that I'm recording in vMix in my primary system, but apparently I'm also recording in this secondary system. Now, where I'm recording to is a question. Is this the same recording? 200-45. Well, let's see. Let's go back to here. We'll switch over to the primary system and look at recordings. 200. No, this is 2 different recordings. At 1080p 5994. So that's going to be 2 big recordings there, even though today we're only live streaming with 2997. Okay. All right. Guido asked, did I need a different license for the second instance? It did not flag me to ask for a license. In fact, well, I don't want to show you my license, but I'll go to settings and go to about and just make sure it's that the same license. Ends in AL for Alabama, and then let's go back to the primary machine and see. Yeah, it's the same license. So it's one license per machine, or is it one license per instance of vMix? Or excuse me, two. So maybe I'm not using the other instance of this one. Anyway, it didn't get red flagged. So I am streaming. You're right. I think I'm streaming at 60. Let's see. I think YouTube thinks I'm streaming at 60 because that's the way I set YouTube up, but I'm actually only streaming at 30. And that's kind of a disconnect between in the new YouTube. YouTube allows you to set up to remotely set up the resolution and bit rate and frame rate, and that's what they're going to live stream regardless of what you send them. So there you go. So Visual Learning says, do you know of any workaround to add a 9th vMix call to the show? Well, if you'd asked me that an hour ago, I would have said, yeah, just use a second instance of vMix. But, it's funny that you would mention that. We're working on a kind of a prototype project right now with actually the same machine that we built. I think it's a 18-core sucker, and we want to try to use that to run 8 vMix calls on that machine and then run vMix calls on other PCs and then share those with NDI, but we're still trying to get the audio part of it worked out. But I think it's possible to do that. I just haven't completed that. Frankly, we've been kind of busy. Michael Quiff says 2 licensed vMix PCs working together. Yeah, I think that would work. Again, the audio is the thing. Now, John Mahoney he's the Streaming Alchemy guy. he did a show about 4 or 5 weeks ago that basically showed how his system could be worked to bring in more than just the 4 callers that his system will allow by kind of putting two of his systems and a third system on the same network so they could share, video and audio via NDI. The third system was a TriCaster, but I think it would apply to a vMix setup as well, in terms of switching audio sources and video sources for the callers so that they would kind of know where they were, whether they were in a green room and can talk to everybody else, or whether they were, ready to go on the show. Oh, I really did sleep well last night. I'm not sure what the issue is. Holy cow. Michael said that Phil Manson showed me that last week, 12 vMix calls shared with NDI with Mix Minus. There you go. I think we'll see more and more of that. I don't think it's going to be able to happen on the same PC, because right now, when I pressed record on this PC, on this instance of vMix, it started a recording on that instance of vMix. And so there was no way to really know. And when I turned off the audio on that instance of vMix, even though it didn't show it, it had turned off the audio on this instance of vMix. So I wouldn't trust 2 instances of vMix to run, 6 and 6 of vMix calls. I mean, I guess you could play with it, but I wouldn't be very optimistic that it would work and work well and work consistently. I think audio would be the biggest issue. So there you go. Yeah, Jan says multiple machines, each with 8 vMix calls, is trivial. Simply link them together with NDI and pay attention to audio buses. Yeah. He's never tried it. It's like, oh yeah, just put it in. It'll work. The issue becomes when you want to take, let's say you've got 16 callers, 8 on one machine and 8 on another, and you don't want all 16 callers on at one time. You want them in groups. Let's say you want them in 4 groups of 4. So you have to be able to control the audio of the ones that aren't live and probably give them a different, video feed. A video feed that shows the program out, but also shows other data, like who all the other callers. I mean, there are just lots of ways to do it if you want it to look nice and be respectful of your callers. Kevin said, I had a situation in vMix call where somehow the video appeared to be 3 to 7 frames ahead of the audio. Interesting. The video adjustment parameter was grayed out. Any ideas? I don't know. We'll talk about that in the post show. Let's wrap this up. So Tom went on a gem hunt and got his hand trapped in a gem trap because the gem I thought was a gem was not a gem. It was a phony. And I apologize for wasting your time on that. But next week, who knows what can happen. Anyway, we're gonna pop into the post show now. So hang on a minute and we'll be right back. Okay, post show. Let's see if we have audio everywhere. We've got the desk audio, we've got the master, we've got the audio in the second one. And interesting, I turned off the recorder on the primary PC and the recorder went off. Remember when I turned it on before, it turned on the recorder for the second instance. Well, when I turned it off the recording for the first instance. And I'm going to have to turn off the second instance by itself. So it'll be interesting. I'll probably have 2 files. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Okay, so Kevin said he had a situation in vMix call where somehow the video in vMix call, where the video now Kevin, is this the video from your caller that was ahead, or was it the video from you to the caller, or was it your video that was being your composite video that was being live streamed? Just to be clear. Just to be clear. All right, let's see. Jan's fortunate to have 3 vMix systems around. He's been playing with it for a while. He had a situation in vMix call where somehow, oh, sorry, I was reading 2. Guido says, finally able to see a show again in a long time, and this is what I get. That's right. That's right. I don't blame you. Gee whiz. But we get to hang out. So Jan says, Tom, it's no different from what we use Zoom, Skype, and et cetera to create manual mix minus with virtual audio cables. Yes, it is, because Zoom and Skype, with multiple callers, their audio is mixed. Actually, their audio in, if you're taking NDI audio, let me think this through. I think the NDI audio that you would get from a second PC would be the mixed audio. You wouldn't get a single caller if you wanted just a single caller. So you would have to mute the others or redirect their audio. I think that's the issue there. Michael, Tom, how many cores in the 18 Monster were actually used when you had the 8 replays running? You know, I didn't check that, but I was amazed that the CPU use was like 20%. It was low. So, Guido, you'll have to ask to get your ticket money back. Yeah, that's right. The check's in the mail. And Kevin says yes. I asked him a 3-part question. And he says yes to all parts. Help me out just a little bit, Kevin. He said the video issue was ahead of the audio as I received it in vMix from the caller. Okay, all right, yeah. So the latency on the audio there. What I would have done in that situation was as soon as I realized what was going on, assuming that we were in a pre-show situation, I would have asked the caller to disconnect and then reconnect, because you don't have any control over the sync. At least in the very basics, you don't have any control over the sync in a caller. I guess you can delay their audio, but you can't delay their video. Yeah, but even then, if you've watched the stats in vMix call on the audio latency versus the video latency on a call, it's constantly fluctuating, and sometimes one will be out ahead of the other. Sometimes, but several seconds is really unusual, and generally WebRTC, that's the technology that kind of vMix call rides on top of. Generally WebRTC prioritizes the audio over the video. So I would have asked them to restart their vMix connection and their vMix call, and if that didn't work, I would have asked them to restart their PC, and if that didn't work, I would have asked them to restart their modem or their router, because there was a disconnect there on their end in that regard. All right, Guido, wasted his time. Gee whiz. All right, Michael says, wouldn't you be able to have the master vMix take NDI audio from the slave vMix for many callers? Yes, but and I can't set it up as a test here, but my recollection is that the NDI audio from a remote PC will merges all the audio. So when I go to select an NDI source for a remote PC, and I wish I could set it up now, and that's something that NewTek knows and they're working on supposedly. So in vMix, and let me share my screen again. This screen, not the other screen. Holy cow. In vMix, when you set up an output, and let's just move that up there, you have the opportunity to add all calls as NDI sources on the network. But my recollection is that when you do that, if you have more than one call, that even though the video may be distinct and separate, each person's video feed as an NDI output carries all of the NDI audio from all of the calls. But double check me on that. Double check me on that. So everyone hears everything. That's right. But we probably could have some fun testing that. Yeah, John's saying, send local calls to the master in bus A and then send bus A to system 2. But you still have to loop. You still have to mute those folks that are not currently active. John, you missed it all. We're on daylight savings time here in the U.S., so it's currently almost 3:40 Eastern Daylight Time. Do you do daylight time in the Caribbean? I don't know. I have got coming up here in about 45 minutes, I have a demo for a major college that's looking at vMix for instant replay. No, not instant replay. Well, yes, instant replay, but they want it to do in the on their video scoreboard. They want to be able to do instant replay in the stadium. And so we are doing that with the, I don't think it's the president, but I think it's, maybe the athletic director or somebody like that. It's going to be fun. And I understand he has lots of questions. There's Byron Lindsay. And that's right, John, you can rewind. We have the DVR function established. And John says that in the Caribbean, they do have daylight savings time. I mean, why do you need daylight savings time? You have beaches and water and everything else. You get daylight savings times too? That's not fair. There's Amnon, but you can get the recording later on, right, Tom? That's right. YouTube is recording it in all its glory. The pre-show, the show, and the post-show. Unlike other shows that only show you just the show, we give you the pre-show, the post-show, and the show. There you go. All right, Visual Learning Solutions. Buddy, look into NDI and a second vMix on a second machine. Yeah, there you go. All right, so iMedia Web says, Tom Sinclair, Tom, when I send NDI from my PTZ Optics camera, after 30 minutes, video lag and audio is out of sync. I reboot the PTZ and all lag disappears. Is it a PTZ problem or a net? It's probably a net, I would think. I've never experienced it. Now, this is assuming that you're not sending the audio through the camera. You're just doing the audio separately from the camera, then you're syncing them up in software. Amnon. On system 2, send audio from system 1 to bus B. Send bus B to calls on system 2. Send audio from calls to master plus bus B and send master to system 1. Is that master 1 or master 2? Somebody wrote me an email the other day and had a question about audio, and of course provided zero details. But it's like email is not a visual medium, and it's not an auditory medium. And it's very difficult to diagnose and repair or fix an audio problem by email. It really is hard. And even trying to explain to people how to set up virtual audio cables in email, it's hard. Better to do it. Exactly. Daniel says, time to draw a map. That's right. And Ken's got some wisdom there. Make sure the audio is using 48,000 hertz, not 44,100. Yep. The last thing you want to do is mix up your audios. At least that's what I've been told. I am not an audio expert. Not even an audio intermediary. What would you call it? An intermediate user. I'm not even a novice. So there. All right, so Ferguson, USA, Hot Talk Radio. Does anyone know how to route Microsoft Your Phone audio through vMix? Ooh, there's a good question. If you don't get an answer here, post that in the Streaming Idiots group. I'd love to see the discussion on it. Remember we did a show, oh boy, it's been a long time ago, where we connected a cell phone to a mixer and used actually it was a video cable, a standard definition video cable, and used no, because that would have been RCA jacks, and this had the 3.5 millimeter jacks. Anyway, it was a 3.5 millimeter on one end, and maybe it was RCAs on the other end, and we put the 3.5 millimeter into the phone, and then used the yellow as seems to me that was the output from the phone. So that was an input on the mixer, and then the red and the white, the stereo audio, were outputs from the mixer going back into the phone, or was it vice versa? Anyway, it was definitely doable, but that's just for a regular cell phone. Jan says, I have messed around for weeks with audio buses and vMix, and eventually the penny dropped. That must be a Danish colloquialism, because I have never, ever heard that one. Eventually the penny dropped. Now, I've heard the pin dropped, but that's an audio thing. It was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. But I've not heard about the dropping penny. Tell me the story of the dropping penny. And Michael needs one while you're at it. Yeah. Love to know the story of the dropping penny. Keep an eye on vMix company in the next, in the future, the near future. Yeah, don't tell anybody I told you. Oh, Daniel says he thinks it's a British expression. I can't believe Jan would use something British. Holy cow. Oh, it's when your brain goes pling. Okay. All right. Calvary DA, welcome. The penny on donations alert. Yeah, there you go. It is British. Okay. All right. Good to know. A couple of good things come out of Britain. Yeah. Boy, was this show a bust. My apologies. I went into it thinking, I can wing this. I don't need to test. If anybody needs to test it, oh, I like that one. Visual Learning Basics. It makes sense to him. Good one for you. If anybody can get away without testing something, it's going to be me, right? I can test it. It'll work. I mean, I don't even have to test it. I'll just do it because I've already thought it through and I know it'll work. Yep. All right, in Denmark, it would have been the, don't know what that word is, but I assume it's a Danish penny. Thank you, Gary. That's right. It's the equivalent to the light went on. Okay, dumb it down and I can get it. That's right. Give it to me in not even plain English. Less than plain English. There you go. We need to do a show here, and have a bunch of you guys call in and see if we can do it on more than 8 calls. There's Clint. Oh, Amnon says it finally clicked. Yeah. Clint said, oh, Clint, very, very reassuring. Not a bust. Many things can be learned from, oh, he didn't say in failure. I thought at first it said from your failure. That's what he meant. John says he's back with his pennies. He said, trick is you split the audio, one for output, one for your vMix use. Okay. Well, that's a good idea. Split the output. That way you don't get a mix that's not minused. Yep, I get it. And I think that's some of what John said in his video. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. He did one last Friday, his second one on vMix scripting, and 5 minutes in, it went over my head. My apologies, John, for not being a brighter student, but I didn't pay attention in scripting class. All right, boys and girls, let's wrap this up so I can get ready for this next gig, and we'll come up with something even better than this, like it would be hard, for next week. Oh, Martin shows up. What have I missed? Martin, there's a DVR little thing at the bottom. You can just drag it back, go back to the beginning of the show. But let me save you the trouble. You didn't miss anything. It was a bust. It was supposed to be gems, and the gems were made out of soap. So don't put soapy gems in your mouth. That's the story. All right. In Danish, it is a 5 øre, which is roughly 1 cent. All right. Michael says it was a great scripting class. Michael, I was sure it was. I just couldn't understand it. And Kevin said, I'm glad he said it's equivalent to the light going on, not going off. There you go. There you go. All right. Well, I hate that Martin is here, but I gotta peel out of here. But I appreciate you guys. Loved hanging out with you, and not sure that I'm going to be able to make it to IBC in the fall. I think there's just too many barriers at this point. But I am planning on making it to NAB in October. So if you guys are planning on it, we'll have the vMix Fun Time Live Show. We'll have the Streaming Idiots meetup on Monday night. And we're working on a venue on that. And we'll also be doing a breakfast every morning. And, well, you won't be doing a breakfast. You have to buy your own breakfast. But we'll have a speaker every morning at NAB. So that'll be fun to come hang out with some idiots and learn some stuff. So there we go. You guys are welcome to continue to chat. I mean, it just, holy cow. All right. I'm going to send you off with some fireworks, and I appreciate you. Everyone, take care.